He has spoken on the topics faith, family and freedom in Cuba, Belgium, Brazil, Congo, UK and all over the USA to crowds from 14 to 40,000. International leadership speaker, trainer and coach. Author of Learn to Raw Leadership, Attitude Hack, Live a More Excellent Life, 5 Battle Strategies of a Victorious Warrior. 2021 President's Lifetime Achievement Award recipient. Founding partner of the John Maxwell team. Toastmaster International Speech Competition semi-finalist. Founder of Tell It Like It Is TV, ThatGuyRocks.com and ThatGuySpeaks.com. Creator of Story Power TV, Transforming Grace TV, and Leading Leaders Podcast. Producer of 4 TV programs and podcasts for Liftable TV and World Trumpet Television as well as multiple social media channels. Please help me welcome J Loren Norris.
It really is amazing to me how many people who desperately need help. They need help moving something, picking something up, opening a door, dealing with a relationship, moving past an obstacle, understanding where they're lacking awareness. They need a lot of help, and yet they refuse to ask for help. Or when they're offered help, they decline. Why is that? That's exactly what I want to talk about in this episode of Leading Leaders. Stay tuned. Subscribe now for our extensive video library of leadership lessons promoting faith, family, and freedom. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast, and I have to be honest and tell you, in my ego sometimes, I know that I need help, but something in me either feels like a little bit of a martyr or just a little bit stubborn or a little bit hard-headed or maybe all of the above. And as a result, I don't ask for the help that I need. Now that doesn't mean that I won't complain about it later. In fact, I might even tell people, I don't need your help, it's too late. I could have used your help 5 minutes ago, 2 minutes ago, 3 minutes ago. I know I personally have flown off the handle yelling at somebody who didn't know I needed help and could have helped had I asked. But I didn't, because ego. Because I don't want to seem like I'm weak. Because I don't want to feel like I depend on somebody else. I know it's just me. But if you can learn from my mistakes, get over yourself. Because believe it or not, there are a lot of people around you who could help, who would help, who will help, who want to help if you give them the chance. I can also tell you there are a lot of people in your life that they look at the pain that you're going through, the relationship problems that you have, the struggles, and maybe they're interpersonal, maybe they're intrapersonal. Maybe it's the relationship conversations that you have with other people that are tearing you apart, that somebody else is looking from the outside going, if I could just give you a little bit of advice, this one thing you could change. It's really not that complicated. It's just, you got to be willing to change it. If you would just hear me out to tell you that one little thing, it'd make your life a whole lot better. There are people around you right now watching from the outside, watching things in your life dismantle themselves. They're like a ticking time, like the ones that you would see in the old movies with the old alarm clock and the sticks of red and the little fuse. Yeah, those things. But they're relationship issues. They're perspective issues. They're knowledge issues. They're not enormous. In fact, you could probably manage every one of them one-on-one. But when they're all compounded together, it's unmanageable. It's unmanageable without help. Now, why would a leader carry around a handful of little problems like that and hold them right against their chest? You see all these special ops films that whatever, it's a CIA, FBI, Special Forces, SEAL teams, whatever. And you see the person with the big, and they can shoot way down range with that. And right around their chest, they have these, pull the handle, throw it, right? And they're right against their heart and their lungs. And you're thinking to yourself, If somebody just pulled all those, you're toast. You're done. And yet, that's exactly what many leaders do. They want to keep them close to their chest, because they're private. I'm all hidden up. I'm all buttoned up. I look good, don't I? And meanwhile, deep inside their relationships, deep inside their own personal mindsets, their own psyche, their own way of thinking, the way they look at themselves in the mirror, the story they tell in the mirror, it's another one of those little pull the pin, it's all done kind of things, right against their most fragile organs. And we don't realize that maybe it's that addiction. Maybe it's that one course you skipped in college. You tested out of it. My wife jokes all the time that she doesn't want to go through any of the courses that I teach. Ironically, she sits in the back of the room for all of them. She's on the Zoom call because she's my primary administrator. So for everything that I've taught on leadership and communication, she's been present for probably 80 to 90% of it. And she's heard many of these same lessons again and again and again. And yet, she'll tell you to this day, she tried when she was in college to take the test so that she didn't have to do a public speaking class. Well, she got her degree in psychology, but she didn't want to speak in front of the crowd. She didn't want to be up there. Maybe there's something in your life that you really needed to learn. It would have been massively different in your life, a little further down the road, and maybe miles down the road in your success and accomplishment. Maybe even shortened the curve and the timeline so you didn't have to get to 60 to be that successful. Maybe you could have done it at 20, 30, or 40. But you wanted to skip that test. I wasn't in class on that day. I took that semester off. I avoided that learning module. And it was that one learning module that it's another one of those, it's right here. It's right next to your heart and your lungs and your inner organs. Everything soft and tender about you is about to be decimated because of that one class you skipped, that one relationship you never fixed. That, there's a philosophy in leadership circles, especially in the Christian leadership circles. They say how you leave one relationship is how you enter another. And if you leave it a mess and you burn bridges and you wound people and you lie to get out of trouble, you don't take responsibility, well, all of those things come back to haunt you. All of them do. And it's kind of like that test you haven't taken yet, or that test you've taken and haven't passed yet. That test is going to keep coming up. You're going to have to face that challenge, that lesson, that test over and over and over and over again. Now, that's not to say that you can't ever get past it. Eventually, you will. Eventually, you'll realize, oh, that's the one I've been avoiding. That's the relationship I needed to mend. That's the thing I had to go back and fix. That's the book I haven't read. That's the thing I haven't studied. That's the help I never asked for. And when you do, you're going to realize, I wish I'd done that 2 months ago, 2 years ago, 10 years ago, because the difference it made in my life was huge. I'm still asking the question, though, why do leaders decline to get help? And I can speak from my own experience. I can also tell you with a lot of people that I've worked with, there's something in that story in their life. I say the story power is not just a stage presentation tool. It is. It's also a fix yourself kind of a tool. First, lead yourself kind of concept. If the story you're telling about you isn't correct, accurate, true, then the story you're telling to others isn't either. Would you believe me if I told you that one of those little, right next to your, pull the pin in it, and one of those is integrity? Yeah. And it's not just the integrity of did you do what you said you were going to do? That one's big enough, but it's the integrity of are you who you think you are? Are you who you think you are? Are you who you say you are? Are you the same person that you present yourself to others to be? I'm not judging. I'm just saying that if you are honest with yourself and you said to others, I want to be like this when I grow up, that's great. But why that? What qualities, what features, what advantages would being that kind of a person represent to you? What is it about that achievement that to you is success? And if you can't really put your finger on that question, then chances are there's only one or two features about that modicum of success, that persona, that personality, that degree, that title, that recognition, that fame. There's only one or two things about it that you really want to possess. But the real question is it the who that you want to be? And if so, are you willing to do what's necessary to make that happen? John Maxwell often talks about it, and I'm sure he's not the only one, but John's the first one I heard say it. It was the most poignant. He said, people come up to me all the time. They say to me, I want to do what you do. And he often says to them, well, that's great, but are you willing to do what I did so I can do what I do? Dave Ramsey says it a similar way. He says, those who save like nobody else can then live like nobody else. There are a lot of philosophies that say you can't save your way into prosperity. You can't save your way into wealth. You can't save your way into riches. You can only save your way out of the poorhouse. That's a whole different philosophy. But if you want to live like nobody else, you've got to do things that nobody else is willing to do. You've got to make sacrifices that nobody else is willing to make. You've got to endure hard times that nobody else is willing to endure. That's what makes the successful the 3% of the world. That's why there's not everybody in the world successful. 3% of the people in the world will reach that level of achievement academically, professionally, in their notoriety, in their finances, in their income. 3%. What are the other 97% doing? The other 97% are not really striving because they're not pushing themselves to the outer limits of their own capability and potential. No, they've kind of given up right where they are. They've kind of settled in to what they have, and that's it. Why? Well, they don't want to ask for help. Why don't they want to ask for help? Okay, so here's where I think that big weakness of leadership comes in. That weakness that says, if I ask for help, I reveal something about me that up to now I've hidden, I've lied about, I've been unwilling to admit to myself. And the minute I kind of open my jacket and everybody sees all those little pins around my chest and they realize just how weak and vulnerable I am, then everything I've achieved up to this point will, poof, it'll just evaporate. And there might be some truth to that. I mean, there really could be. It could be that when you expose yourself in that way, everything that you've built your life upon is revealed to have been a facade. What now? Well, I guess you can continue to live in the facade and the fear and the anxiety, or you can rip the veneer off and rebuild. Again, whether you do that when you're 70 or 60 or 20 is totally up to you. How soon are you willing to go, hey, I'm weak, I got vulnerabilities, I need help, I need people to surround me. I need a perimeter of trustworthy people who are going to tell me the truth. That personal board of directors who've got no skin in the game from a financial standpoint. They've got nothing to win or lose by tearing you down, by breaking you down, by humiliating you. But they have the integrity to say, I care about you and I want you to succeed. If you have people like that in your inner circle, then it'll be a whole lot faster, a whole lot, I won't say easier because it may still be painful, but it'll be a whole lot more likely to happen that someone's going to speak the truth to you and say, hey, listen, I have an idea what you're going through. And I get it. This is going to be hard. But the path you're on right now is more destructive than the battle to change direction. If you've ever known an addict, regardless of the addiction, workaholic, alcoholic, drug addict, sex addict, drama addict, it doesn't matter. If they're an addict, the addiction drives their behavior more than good common sense. If you've ever been an addict, you know that's true. And if you don't know if that's true or not, ask someone you know who's been an addict. The addiction drives behavior more than good common sense, more than education, more than knowledge. Your behavior will be driven by the addiction itself and not by what you know to be right or wrong, not by what you value in your life, not even by the most important relationships in your life. The addiction doesn't care about any of those things. The addiction wants to own you and control you, and that's it. Again, if you don't believe that to be true, ask an addict, they'll tell you. Now, if you're in leadership and you've got an addiction of any sort, you need help. You may not be willing to admit you need help. You may not want to expose yourself and have somebody else say, wow, that's worse than I thought. But if you're not willing to get help, to fight the battle now, there will be a time when the addiction will expose you. That's just the truth. Look, nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to hear that the battle is coming even if they're not willing to fight it. Nobody wants to hear that I'm trying to hold this in and keep it a secret and stay away from the war because I don't want everybody else to see me weak in this fight. Well, you can try that all you want to, but the truth is eventually it's going to expose itself. Life around you is going to expose you. How many high-level leaders, media, politics, finance, military leaders have lost everything because of an addiction? Again, alcohol, sex, whatever it is. These things, they will creep up on you and destroy you, like somebody sneaking up and pulling the pin while it's still in your holster against your heart. It doesn't matter who exposes you. The damage control is still necessary. Now, if you know that that pin's about to be pulled, you want to distance yourself from it. In fact, it's best to pull it out, pull the pin, release and throw it yourself. Get it away from you as far as you can. Get yourself away from it as far as you can. Well, how do you do that? You get help. You ask for help. You tell somebody, look, I'm struggling with this. I need somebody who can give me clear eyes, who can step in and go, hey, no, don't act like that. Don't do that. Don't follow that course. But this is the truth. There will be a time as you're walking down that course, you're getting further and further away from your destiny, further and further away from the opportunity to leave it alone, further and further away from the chance to salvage what's left. And if you don't take action, the hard, painful, here's what I got kind of an action, then what you're doing will destroy you. Just understand this. It never stops with you. If you need help and you decline that help because you're in fear of being exposed, here's what you need to know. When it goes off, it doesn't stop with you. It's everything you've built and everyone you've loved and everyone you've cared about. Yeah, they're all going to be hurt, devastated, some of them utterly destroyed. All you need to do is go back and look over the last 20 years, the number of people whose lives were destroyed by an addiction, by a stupid behavior, by corruption, who then had family members who destroyed themselves. Empires, legacies, everything you've worked for, poof, like a bubble in the wind. Why? Because if you don't get help, all of those you serve are just as vulnerable as you are. And they're still following you. And they will follow you right into that path of destruction. Now, if you're willing to get help, I get it. Again, it's that exposure thing. Here's the other, or at least one other major reason leaders don't get help. They don't trust anybody. They don't trust anybody to get close enough to hear the problem they're struggling with, to hear what it is they're going through, to expose the mistakes they've made, the decisions they've made, and go, okay, I did this. What do I do now? And the reason they don't trust anybody to get close is because they've been burned, or they've watched others who were vulnerable and got burned because they didn't build that personal board of directors, that group of people to surround them to go, hold up, can I just point out what may be obvious to everybody else and ignored by you? Because people who care about you, they do that. People who get to know you well, they do that. People who listen to what you have to say and watch what you actually do, they do that. And the challenge is when there's a little bit of a discoloring, if you will, of the truth, that little taint of a lack of integrity, there are people who will look at that and go, okay, yeah, you need to fix that. Simple as that. You need to fix that. And then there are others who will pour salt into that wound. They'll begin to dig at it with dirty shovels and knives because they realize there's a weakness there. And right now it may be a really small weakness and something that's easily fixed. But that's not what they want. What they want is to take you off your pedestal. They want to move you from the spotlight so they can be in it. They want to besmirch your name, destroy your character, bring down everything you've ever accomplished. Oh, and they'll use any means necessary. They'll contact your friends. They'll speak about you on social media. They'll go to the press. They'll make press releases that are so overblown and have nothing to do with actual truth. And yet, because there's this one little element that they found in the weakness of you, they'll exploit that to the full degree. You shouldn't trust people like that, but sometimes they're hard to weed out. Sometimes in an effort to be as open and accepting and forgiving and loving and inclusive as you can possibly be, sometimes that in itself is the invitation to someone who'd rather pour salt in the wound or see it fester than to help you expose it and fix it. And they're really hard to identify sometimes. Sometimes they're family members. They know secrets that nobody else knows. Over 30 years ago, I wrote, it's really hard when a good friend goes bad because nobody knows your secrets like they do. That's still true. 30 years later, it's still true. Nobody knows your secrets like your closest friends. A best friend gone bad? Ooh, that's horrible. Because they know everything. And if they've gone bad, they will expose everything. So how then does a leader decide who they're going to expose these things to? Well, you're going to have to do your homework on that one. You're going to have to spend some time with people. You're going to have to be vulnerable to people and see how they handle that truth. You're going to have to expose some things and see if they exploit your weaknesses or help you fix them. And that takes time. It also takes credibility and credentials. It takes being able to look at that person that you're considering bringing into your circle and asking yourself, do they want my spotlight? Are they here to help me genuinely from an extraneous position? They're not here to be the next me. They're not trying to take over my empire. They're not looking to gain my followers. That's not what they're after. They want to come in, help me, and get out. They're like a Navy SEAL team or an extraction team. They have one assignment: help and get gone. If that's the kind of person that you have an opportunity to deal with, then get to know them, vet them, check their references, check their resources, and let them help. I mean, most people, I know some do, but most people, if they have a cardiac arrest, they go to the ER, they go to the heart surgeon, they get the best doctor they can afford to get, and they get the work done, and they move on with their life. Some spend the rest of their life with that cardiologist. I know Dr. John Maxwell has talked about his own cardiologist and how they built a relationship after his first major heart attack. I also know there are people who they run in and out of the ER and they don't even need it. It's actually a cough. Yeah, a little bit of a dry throat from the change in the weather. It's gone from 80 degrees to 50 degrees. Okay. To go to the ER and spend thousands of dollars on medical attention, whether it's your money or some other assistant's money, that's not beneficial. But you're obviously not going to build a relationship with that person. Most people have a better relationship with their chiropractor or their bartender. The real question you've got to ask yourself is, who is it that I let into that inner circle? Who do I open my kimono to? I mean, there's only one person in the world that I walk around in front of with no clothes on, and that's my wife of 30 years. I don't do that anywhere else. I don't do that in the gym. I take my towel and my drawers into the shower with me so that when I come out of the shower, I'm clothed. I don't walk around exposed and vulnerable. Not in my relationships, not in public, not even here on this podcast where I'm telling you, you got to be vulnerable. There are certain things I simply will not tell you on this podcast, ever. I don't care how many times you ask me. But there are also those places where I know with certain people, I should be, I have to be, I must be vulnerable and expose everything and go, okay, what do you see that I don't? What am I hiding from myself? What am I lying to me about? Leaders, they tend to hide those things because they're afraid the minute they do, they're going to be exposed as weak. They're going to be exposed as failures. Sometimes they hide those things because they don't trust the people around them to not use that against them in an effort to destroy them. And sometimes they do it because they don't realize they have blind spots. I'm not weak. I'm powerful. Do you see all my ammunition? Yeah, is that ammunition or is that your vulnerability? It really depends on how you use it and how well the people around you know how to use it. If you're a leader and you're struggling with addiction, with weaknesses, with that class that you skipped, that one thing you should have learned along the way and you didn't, whether that's about relationships or leadership skills or communication skills, in any of those areas that you feel like I might be a trustworthy somebody to help, I would be delighted to help, to step alongside you. I'm not here to take over your life. I'm not here as a coach to become a permanent part of your life. We'll find the solutions. I'll be honest with you. I'll tell you the truth even when it hurts, because I think that's what a good coach and a good leader does. My job isn't to take over your life or to run your life. My job is to give you a place to express, to vent, to be vulnerable, to be honest, to ask the question, is the story I'm telling to myself and to everybody else about me, is it true? Am I living in authenticity and integrity? Or am I just selling the world what I believe the world wants to hear and carrying on down the road with all of my issues, not dealing with them, because I believe if I keep them covered up, it won't matter. If that's you, I'd love to chat. And if it's not you, and you've already got all these things figured out, then find somebody else who you realize is hiding some things and express your concern and your care about them. Encourage them to find somebody they can be trustworthy and vulnerable with. I'm J Loren Norris with Leading Leaders Podcast for Tell It Like It Is TV. Have a blessed day.
Loren is a master teacher on storytelling, and I learned so much. I'm really going to have to sit down and go back through everything, and I think I might have to have some more coffees with Loren, but it was totally worth my time, and I really highly recommend it if you're looking to grow your ministry, grow your business, grow your career. Loren will serve you well.